Yeah, that works out. That works out great. All right, let's get a move on here. Why is Tomar here? Let's see what James has to say about FF6. I think Final Fantasy VI is kind of mediocre except for a couple of sections, but maybe that's just me. Huh.
Happy holidays.
Hello, James.
It's the Christmas season, and that means I'm watching all the holiday classics, such as,
Do your
The
advertising bit, it's
Regenerated
fine.
Man. Yeah.
What?
But that means that it doesn't matter if I'm home or traveling, because I have ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN
Is Express the one that got hacked and everyone's data got leaked, or was that a different one?
Ultimate potential. Know what I mean? Looking for a movie but can't find it with ExpressVPN.
If he was shilling Soylent again.
To another country like the Netherlands, and in an instant, you'll be watching your favorite Sinterklaas.
When did soy start getting a bad rap? I remember everyone used to love soy sauce and rice.
Like Netflix, Disney Plus, and other streamers.
Maybe a little bit of beef in there.
Based on the country you're
That used to be a thing everyone loved.
ExpressVPN works a little holiday spirit and unwraps the entire treasure.
What was the turning point? Was it the creation of Reddit?
And with over 100 countries to pick from worldwide, you can find Christmas classics like Elf in Australia.
I have never cared for a single Will Ferrell movie in my life.
Silent Night, Deadly Night, only in the UK on
That's a good one. He takes the guy's head off.
The options are.
And then his body slides down to his friends, right?
Get yourself 3 months of ExpressVPN for free by going to expressvpn.com/cinemassacre or by clicking the link in my description below.
Fair enough.
Dark clouds, lightning, ominous organ music, and then, ready for it?
Yeah,
ready for
I
it?
remember.
Final Fantasy III. When you saw
I can
this
appreciate the
fiery
title
font
being, like...
emerging from your CRT TV,
That is
darting
Dancing
across
Mad,
the
right?
room
It's
to
the
your
beginning of
final
Dancing Mad.
couch and heard those epic chords ringing out across the wallpapered walls of your wood-furnished living room, littered with fruit roll-up wrappers and Sunday newspaper
Oh
comics.
man, I could go for a
You
fruit
knew
roll-up.
You were
Fuck.
about to play a Super Nintendo game that was truly super and unlike anything that came before. Right away,
The old
told
naming
of an
convention with the
ancient
games.
war that reduced the world to a scorched
1 was
wasteland,
1,
and
2
magic
was 4, and
simply
3 was
ceased to
6,
exist.
right?
Now, machine energy is on the rise, but there are some who would enslave the world
Hmm.
by reviving the dread destructive force known as
The old
magic.
world will burn
Could
in
it
the
be
fires
that
of
those in
industry.
power are on the verge of repeating a senseless and deadly mistake. Now that's taking video game storytelling to a new level. Kind of goes above and beyond Go Rescue the Princess or some shit.
Nah, just
The
a
main
little bit.
story opens on a snowy peak. We're introduced to 2 soldiers of an empire and Terra, who's under their control. The soldiers are named Vix and Wedge, or Biggs and Wedge in the Japanese version, a Star Wars reference.
Yeah, and
They're
there's
in
always a
search of
Sid,
an
too.
elusive magical being known as an Esper, who they have reason to believe is hibernating somewhere in the icy cave.
Does
They
FF8 have the
mention that
lamest
before
Biggs
Terra
and
was under
Wedge?
their control, she had fried
There's 2
their
jobber
soldiers
soldiers
in
you
under
run into
3
a few
minutes.
times over the course
It
in the
already
game.
raises many questions and
They don't
builds
have much to
mystery.
them. They're kind of
Are you
whiny.
enthralled yet? This is some good shit. The 3 march into the snow in their mech suits, known as Magitech armors, as we realize
Xenogears
we just
when?
watched a pre-credit sequence to a video game. We watch them trek through the 3D Winter Wonderland with those Mode 7 graphics and that emotional cinematic score as we anticipate the adventure that
It's a
awaits
decent
us.
opening, especially for a
We
SNES game.
are about to play the greatest video game of all time.
And then it goes on a little bit too long.
That's right. We're doing this. And what better time? Because I think of this as a winter break type of game. I remember the time off from school. And also, there's something about the cold, downcast, melancholy state the game embodies.
The very specific
Also,
state of
with the holiday
nostalgia.
season, I thought I'd give myself a little bit of a gift. You know, because last time I played one of the worst, most fiery, hellish games of all time.
I remember.
Now, I play its winter polar opposite.
Ah. And Terra's so cute, I wish girls were real.
But with good games, sometimes there comes a different kind of trauma. Let me tell you a little story here. As you probably know, this is not a game you just pick up and play for
No,
10
not
minutes
really.
before you hop on the school bus, or even a couple hours after you've done your homework. This is a game that you chip away at over several months. It's a work in progress.
Especially if your
a
time's a
hobby
little bit of the
sorts
essence here.
that you invest yourself in.
This is a game you catch up on while you're sick. It was the longest, most all-consuming game of its era.
It's a very specific
It came out
point in life.
94, but sometime I'd say by the summer of 95, I had finally made it to the final area, Kefka's Tower. The finale was in sight. My heart was
Get that
pounding,
motherfucker!
my pulse was racing. I was approaching the end of the most epic gaming experience of my life. All of a sudden, the game froze.
Yeah.
The screen broke up into glitchy colors. Through decades of foggy memory, I'd say it looked something like this. I had never seen anything like that happen before, nor have I ever seen anything like it since.
Happens sometimes.
The game restarted, or I had to reset, I can't remember which. The opening scene replayed, which shouldn't happen, so that was a bad omen. So nervously, I waited until I got to the first save point, and there, sure enough, all my save data was erased.
Yeah. That's a rough one.
True story. I was definitely an angry nerd that day, especially for a kid with no real-life responsibilities, no family support, nothing like that. No, having your Final Fantasy game erased was a big fucking problem.
Yes!
And
Happened to me with
that's how
7
my
once.
childhood
The fucking
experience with
worst.
that game ended. And in almost 30 years since, I never again attempted to beat the game. I just could not bear to invest myself in it so deeply again. It's like losing a pet and then deciding to get another pet only to one day again face the inevitable.
You have to name them the same thing, or otherwise it doesn't work.
But that theme of loss is commonly cited as being a big part of the game's storyline. And now that so much time has passed, maybe it's time to give it a shot again. Because I'm going to do it. This is my second chance. I'm going to complete my childhood.
A man finishes his debts. Am I alone in just hating Moogles? Like, universally. Never liked them.
When
Not
this
for a
game
single
first
second.
came out, it was the most expensive game I ever bought with my own money. It was close to $80 when most
Yeah,
games
yeah.
were closer to 60.
Came in that big box too, didn't it?
Into KB Toys at the mall with my saved up cash. I remember the clerk agreeing that it was overly pricey, but to be fair, he said this game takes like 5 to 8
Prefer
months to
Tonberry?
beat, which
Tonberry's
back
pretty
then
base.
was a big deal. The manual was almost like a whole D&D book, full of character stats and information. It even came with a double-sided map. Final Fantasy III was the biggest game of its time.
Also, I just gotta say,
Chrono Trigger was better.
I know, I've been calling it Final Fantasy III because I'm playing the Super Nintendo version, and that's what it's called. Of course, the Super Famicom version is called 6, which we all know is the true sequential number, but back then, I had no idea.
No one
Neither
did.
did anyone else I knew. Not until 7 came out on PlayStation, and I was like, what? How did we get to...
Fucking YouTube! I'll kill you! I'll kill your family! Next.
7 already. Now, everyone knows the story. I even covered it way back in my chronologically confused episode. The mix-up has long been cleared. Everyone calls it 6 now. But the cartridge still says 3. The title screen still says 3. Every time I play it, it still says 3. I tried giving it the finger and telling it, fuck you, you're wrong. But the game still says 3.
Yeah.
Fact.
Probably helps that 3
So what
is
made this
kind of
game
mediocre.
different from other fantasy adventure games like Zelda? Well,
Is 3 the most
everything.
forgettable Final
This was
Fantasy?
the
It is,
first
right?
RPG I ever played.
I never
My
hear
first
anyone
glimpse of it
talk
was at a
about
friend's
3
house.
ever.
I remember seeing the battle screen and wondering, why are the characters just slashing at the air? Why are there a bunch of numbers popping up? I wasn't used to this more automated,
Proper
luck-based
turn-based.
fight system. What is this, I thought? Some kind of flash
Real 3? No, Real 3. I never hear anyone talk about Real 3.
Having already owned those role-playing board games like Hero Quest and Dragon Strike. I wasn't fully aware how far back its history went with D&D. I didn't know RPGs were a thing, but after Final Fantasy III on Super Nintendo, I sure as hell did.
That background art really is just a picture of something, isn't it?
Anyone who's played the game knows
Sabin
how it
is so
works.
cool, man.
Basically, you build up a large ensemble of heroes. You travel through towns, caves, and dungeons, collecting items, fighting monsters, meeting people, gaining spells and abilities, and steadily advancing the storyline. On paper, it's like your typical adventure game. But one of the things that made it
Takes about
so
30, 40
extra
hours.
special for the time was the massive amount of weapons and accessories.
Man,
to
it's like a
equip
drop in
yourself
the
with,
pond
and
nowadays,
all the
isn't it?
magic
God.
and skills to learn. Once you start acquiring the espers, you can assign them to characters so they can learn certain spells as you go on. This all gives the player the freedom of customizing their characters however you see fit and trying out different combinations of abilities.
H would later try this
Speaking
again
of
and fail
customizing,
completely.
Just the fact that you can name all of them was a fresh concept. Sure, you could do it in games before, but not with
That's
that
my
many
boy.
characters. There's also lots of parts where the characters split up into multiple groups, so you get to pick who goes in each group and who leads. The characters are really the core element of why this game was so groundbreaking. Never had there been such an amazing ensemble, all with their own unique personalities and rich backstories. The camaraderie of these characters really shines through. It's all about building the
I'm trying
team.
not to interrupt
It's
too much,
Wizard
but
of
that's also
Oz.
pretty boring,
It's
isn't it?
Lord of the Rings.
Ugh.
Over the course of the adventure, you come
Lord of
to
the Rings
know
still
them,
pretty on
almost
top.
like real people. And the fact they can achieve this
Why
with
was there
no
never, like,
pixelated sprites and minimal
a
graphic
traditional,
technology is a
faithful,
major
direct
accomplishment.
adaptation of the Lord of the Rings?
Passion always comes
Like in the
through,
game form?
in spite of limitations. There isn't even a clear main
The
character.
closest you ever got
They
was an
all
old
seem
DOS
just
game.
as important. If I had to pick one, I'd say Terra, whose father was an Esper, which is where her gifts
That's my
and
girl.
mental abilities come from. Much of her story is about trying to find her identity and place in the world. Having fought
Especially
on
with the whole
Empire's
mind control
side through
thing, yeah.
mind control, she now tries to rectify that by fighting alongside the heroes. Celeste, or Celis, also used to be on the Empire side and has been genetically powered through magic.
Terra known
She
victim of
eventually
the
turns against the Empire.
recolored redesign.
Locke is a thief, or treasure hunter as he prefers, who's bitter after his girlfriend was killed by the Empire. He eventually has
Everyone
a
would
romantic
be, to
yet
be fair.
complicated relationship with Celeste. Edgar is the king of Figaro, who pretends to be in alliance with the Empire, but is really on the good guy's side. And on top of that,
You gotta
the
do what you gotta
entire
do
castle
sometimes.
is set on fire. So he's also had his share of tragedy. He's a little bit sketchy, though. What the fuck? Jacob is Edgar's brother who leaves the world
That's a
to
good
be
bit.
free. He looks like Guile, and his blitz moves use similar button commands to Street Fighter.
Well, Paul
Cayenne
Naraf, but I
is a
guess you wouldn't know that.
samurai-type character. His town's water supply was poisoned by the main villain Kefka, killing almost everyone, including his wife and son.
You'd think they'd know not to
Shadow
drink the
is a
purple
more
water.
mysterious type of character, a ninja assassin, an outlaw vigilante. He has his loyal dog by his side, and he always comes and goes unexpectedly. The best is when he swoops
Kinda
in
like
to help
Minwoo in
during a
2,
key
isn't it?
Battle. Gao is sort of a Tarzan-type character, living in the wild, raised by
But I
animals.
want purple.
Maybe that's why he scoots on the ground. Ugh, like when your pet leaves those shit comets. There's also Setzer, the Han Solo-like gambler with the fastest airship, which happens to
He's
be
such
called
a
the
dick,
Falcon.
it's great.
There's the little kid Realm and her surrogate grandfather Strago. There's Galgo with the power of Mimic. And Umaro, the brute Yeti.
You will
who's
not
so
use all of these
physical,
characters.
He actually throws the other characters. Look at that. And my favorite is Mog. What's his deal? Well,
He's a Mog.
He's a Moogle. I don't know. I just love this guy. So fucking cute.
Huh.
So with all these characters, it really shows how far games had come by that point. Long
Yeah, just a
gone
little
are
bit.
the days when it was just pick the guy
Ugh.
or pick the girl.
Need to readjust.
Now it was so much more than that. And those are just the playable characters. We can't forget Kefka.
It really helps your game when your villain is just the Joker.
Kefka is possibly
Sonic
the greatest
EXE.
video game villain ever conceived.
Shut
He
the
suffered
fuck
from
up.
an experimental magic infusion by the Empire, which made him go insane. After rising to power, he's become a psychotic tyrant who is hell-bent on senseless destruction. He backs it up with cynical, pessimistic ideology, making statements like, "There's no point of clinging to life when everyone must eventually die." The dude is messed up.
But
Kefka
food
has
tastes
caused
good.
so much turmoil and given all the characters their own individual reasons to consider him a mortal enemy. Despite ripping the world apart, he brings these characters together with a common goal. So the game is very heavy on characters and story, and that
RPGs
usually
tend to
is
be, yeah.
the most discussed aspect of the game. As far as the actual gameplay goes, it's innovative as well, but does it have some flaws? Sure, probably. But in this context, they are forgivable, especially given how pioneering this game was. The random encounters on the overworld screen can get a little annoying.
Just here and there.
Grinding can sometimes feel monotonous, even though the combat screens are so strangely addicting. Leveling up to max can not only
Earthbound probably still has the best version of this, where if an enemy runs into you and you're high enough level, they just instantly end the fight.
Get in your way. Come on.
Shove them!
Move your ass! Come on, dude. Come on, get out of my way, you fuck! Ah!
You're in my spot, sir.
No, come on. Out of my way. Walking in general can feel a little clumsy. You can't go diagonal. Squaresoft...
Yeah, four-directional.
Chrono Trigger. Man, now that's a fucking good game.
Yeah, it is!
Maybe that's the other greatest game of all time. The movement is much smoother. I also like how you can see all the characters following you. But in Final Fantasy...
They all just meld together, you know.
Combine into one character.
To be entirely fair to 8, it's the first time they stopped doing that.
I was working at a convenience store, and this guy came in, and then he, like, split up, like his body, like, divided into 4 people.
The multiform technique.
With his family.
It is cool that the game shows you how much time you've put in, although I don't know how accurate that is because it's possible to leave the game on while you're not playing.
Yeah.
Also,
yeah, just a little.
Tell you how many steps you've taken. Are the characters wearing an early version of a step tracker for fitness?
You have to know how many calories you burn in a war.
Whenever there's a boss or enemy that has a fatal attack that nukes your entire party. So you have to time it with a Life 3 spell or anything to revive at least one member or something to avoid it. This doesn't feel like strategy. It feels almost
like guesswork.
When the game is unfair, you gotta be unfair. I am aware that sometimes it's possible to get soft-locked. Yeah. It's rare, but say for example one character dies and the other one in the party has pause casted on him, situations like that
and it just never really wears off.
Because now you lost a whole lot of progress. Let's talk about the abundance of attacks and spells. First of all, the characters all have their own special abilities. Cayenne has sword tech where you charge up an attack. Shadow throws weapons from your inventory and
that's a good one to have.
Move. Mog has all the crazy dances.
You're sure as hell not using them yourself anyway.
Like a drill, and a chainsaw complete with a Jason Voorhees mask. I don't use his Bioblaster that much, but I love how it looks. Strago has the lure ability to learn the enemy's spells. And because
enemy
Setzer
skill.
Is a gambler, his
I love enemy skill.
Slot machine outcome. Gao has Rage, where he uses the enemy's attacks. Sabin has the blitz moves. Like
that's the best one.
It can suck when you mess up.
Sabin's the best.
But these moves are some of the most powerful in my experience, especially the bum rush. But my favorite might be the suplex.
Yeah, that's more like.
Pick up an entire train. That's
There's the
hardcore.
meme.
As I already mentioned, you can teach all the characters spells with the espers, but also you can use the actual espers to cast massive spells of their own. There's some amazing psychedelic graphics here. I
think the designs for this is where they started to stick to a certain formula with the summons, isn't it?
I remember when I first saw this stuff, I was like, what the hell? It seemed like my TV screen was melting. Then there's the more comedic Esper spells like Cat Rain. Just a cartoon cat that comes by.
The step on.
The design of the enemies is a work of art in itself. They differ from the tiny pixelated hero characters since they're so detailed and can be very
If you're going to put detail in anything, it may as well be the memorable parts.
Is that thing intimidating or what? How about Chupan, Poltergeist, Behemoth, Doom, or Hades Gygus Colossus? That's metal as fuck.
Yeah, just a little.
Final word on the graphics? With all the spells and enemies,
you have to put detail into the enemies because they're not going to be around as much as the main party, so you can't get used to them otherwise.
But it doesn't stop there.
Makes them much more memorable.
The effects are amazing, and the music by Nobuo Uematsu sounds like it could have been the score for a major film.
It's the best, isn't it? Did Nobuo Uematsu ever make a bad soundtrack, ever?
There's been lots
of
great video game soundtracks up to this point, but this took it to a whole new level. Some of the best music is featured in the opera scene, and speaking of that, this is one of the most memorable scenes. Fans have praised it for its storytelling and its epic nature. There's no denying what an ambitious achievement this was for gaming.
Video game music, not real music.
My God.
Okay, Mom.
This is the most tedious part. So basically, in the story, you're Celeste taking the place of Maria, an opera singer. The whole thing is a scheme to trick Setzer to get him into your party. But anyway, what sucks about it is you have to remember the song lyrics, which you find prior to that. But if
You better write
mess
that
any
shit
of it
down,
up,
man.
you have to start all over again. And there's about 30 minutes of a stretch where you can't save the game.
Yeah.
You
there
did not
is.
want to get called to dinner or get interrupted in any way, or God forbid have a power outage. Back then, before autosaving and sleep mode, and before the internet existed as we know it today,
Back in
you would
caveman
often get stuck
times.
and had to ask friends to share information on how to get through. Not even Nintendo Power offered much help to this game. I mean, how could it?
Too
Let's
expansive
talk
for a
about
magazine.
one of the game's most pivotal chapters of all. It happens after Kefka opens the gate to the Esper world, which causes a major geological event where the entire island becomes the floating continent. The group drops from the airship onto the island and proceeds to embark on a massive dungeon-like sequence, navigating through an elaborate and
Game had good art
unstable
direction,
maze of
especially for its
crumbling
time.
areas and
I think I preferred
teleportation
4
halls
overall,
and
but
fighting all
it ain't
kinds of
bad by
difficult
any stretch of the
monsters.
imagination.
The fact that I have to gloss over this part of the experience says so much about the importance of what happens next.
Yeah.
At this point in the game, you've played for so long, you would be more than satisfied if this were the final confrontation. Doesn't it seem like it? Kefka kills the Emperor, officially making himself the head villain, and he unleashes the power of the gods. If this were an Indiana Jones movie, this is where the villain would be destroyed by their own recklessness. It has
Or
all
God
the
strikes you
formula
down.
of a classic confrontation that would be followed by a final peaceful resolution, but no.
Only the second act.
You race a timer to
Take
leave
that,
the continent,
hippies.
and when you reach the edge to leap back onto the airship, you're given the option to wait for Shadow, or else you permanently lose him. As if you're not already shitting your
'Cause he's
pants,
gonna be on
this
his
guy
way
makes
out.
You run the timer down to almost the last possible fucking second. After this, we witness a global catastrophe unlike anything before in a game. The ground rips apart, people fall into earthquakes, the airship is torn in half,
It's pretty
everyone is
metal.
scattered and lost, and then we're met with a black screen with a simple line that resonates so much. On that day, the world was changed forever.
Imagine playing this as a kid, back in the day, before the internet as we know existed. We didn't know what was going to happen next. I mean, this could be the ending. It could just be one big
Can you
miserable
imagine?
downer, or we could be nowhere near the end.
Celeste awakens
Time for a
on
vengeance
small
quest.
deserted island being cared for by Sid, who's like a parental figure and has a lot of history with the Final Fantasy series. Anyway, after she gains consciousness, Sid succumbs to his own sickness, and you need to care for him by catching and feeding him fish. He can
As you
either
do.
live or die, which doesn't change a whole lot with the outcome of the game, but if he dies, you witness the most depressing scene of any game I've ever played. Celeste goes to the top of a cliff, reminisces about Locke and how everyone's gone, and with nothing left in her life, she tries to end it all. Looking back, this is the darkest and most shocking thing I've ever seen in a game that was played by kids.
Certainly at the
But
time.
Celeste survives, finds out Locke is still alive, takes a raft, and embarks on a new quest. By going in such a dark place, the game is able to make a point that no matter how bleak things seem, there's always hope. When you think about it, this is why Kefka is such a relevant antagonist, because he thinks life
Has no
is
hope for the world.
meaningless. He uses his own trauma to spread despair and bring down all the others. He tries to make all the other characters give up.
Do you want to give up after how far you've come? Hell no!
Even though you've lost everything and now have to find where your friends have gone, collect all new items, and explore the transformed landscape.
Go
which is
kill
now
that
called the World
motherfucker.
of Ruin. This idea was not a brand new concept. Zelda: Link to the Past had a similar idea with the light and dark world.
Certainly not on the same
But the way
scale
it's
now.
done here is entirely different and more relatable.
As you go on, all that talk of the previous world and how things used to be makes so much more sense as an adult. As a kid, how are you supposed to reminisce on the good old days? You have to grow up.
Well,
and
kids are a little bit
experience
smarter than a
life
lot of people
first.
give them credit
So
for with this
that
stuff.
reason, what I'm
Really
trying
just
to
depends
say
on how
here
fixated they
is
get on
that
something.
Not only does this game hold up today, it's actually better as an adult. geez, all that talk of how the world went to shit is eerily similar to what happened in the spring of 2020 when it wasn't even possible to function in the same way or do the same things.
Oddly
But
enough,
we
my
made
life
that
didn't change
climb
all that
back.
much, I'll be
We
honest.
restored. We're fucking back. And likewise, this game gives you that feeling.
Except for Gen
of
Alpha,
building
Zoomers.
back. Because now, you
Yes.
have to play the rest. In the words of Rambo, nothing is over. In the words of the angry video game nerd,
Nothing!
we're only halfway through the fucking game!
It's a good setup for the rest of your plot. I always felt like there should have been some kind of bad ending if you fuck up something and you never get the last act. I don't know, maybe I'm asking too much. You grind those numbers, James. It is that time. Oh god, it's like Ghostbusters going up the stairs. Don't let the memories
Look
take
at
hold.
all these fucking stairs! Wait a minute. I'm having a
There you go.
When we get to 20, tell me. I'm gonna throw up.
So once you've gained back all your characters, leveled them up enough, learned enough
Are you a 6
spells,
guy or a
and
7
built
guy?
up all your resources,
Vast
you can make
preference
the
for
call
7.
And go to Kefka's Tower.
I
You
posted
divide into
the
three
Final
parts.
Fantasy
The
tier list
choices
before.
You make are crucial because
You missed
each
that
group
somewhere.
is going to be taking an entirely different path.
Hmm.
You're going to have to survive through many battles. So unless you spend enough
It's a
time
bit of a
grinding,
gauntlet, isn't it?
you might end up with one party that's way weaker than the others. So hopefully you have their powers spread out wisely.
This is it. The
Ah.
final challenge and the place where my game glitched. Remember that theme of loss? I lost my whole fucking game, and now it's time to get it back.
And now it's time he loses his life. Ah.
Let me ask a question. Have you ever walked into a bathroom to fight a monster? Yeah, he's right near a toilet. That's a real shitty battle. Kefka's Tower is an endurance. You'll be begging for a
The only thing
fucking
that comes
safe
close
spot
in terms
and
of,
have
like,
many close
off-putting
calls.
difficulty is
Oh,
maybe
man.
Ultimisia's
I hope it
Palace in
doesn't
8.
glitch again, or anything else happens.
Even then, I'd argue, as long as you, like, decked out Squall properly, you're not going to have much of a problem. Maybe with Ultima Weapon, but that's, I guess, kind of the point of Ultima Weapon, isn't it? There's the paranoia setting in.
No!
You hate to see it.
Just kidding. I have the battery backup. Yeah, it's all good. Oh, hey, look at that. The power's back on already. Okay, let's beat this game quick.
Kringle!
Santa?
Oh, Merry Christmas, nerd! Merry Christmas! There's nothing I
that
love
Mike?
more than filming skits.
Hey, Santa, I'm a little busy right now.
Are you still playing that game, nerd? Why,
Hmm.
that was last year, wasn't it? Oh!
Yeah. Yeah, that's about right. It's gonna happen. He's gonna do it again.
Oh. Well, you could use a break from that game anyway, right, nerd?
You know, you're right. I could use a break. Santa, Santa.
Oh, God, it's
Sit
gone.
on my lap, little boy.
Well, actually, I'm gonna sit you on your fucking lap.
There you go.
You take a fucking
Those are some agonized screams, man.
Cold Christmas.
This is very relevant to what happened last night. Yeah, every time.
Oh, it erased it all too? Oh, what the fuck? Oh, no, that's it. No. I'm not letting this go. I'm gonna beat it right here, right now.
Yeah, sure, you got 40 hours to spare. Try to fast forward.
Anyway, now that I'm back, I made it through Kefka's Tower. The three parties
Last night?
reached the final area.
You good?
To regroup as
We
one
killed
full
Santa, remember?
ensemble for what can only be.
We killed the shit out of him. He trapped us in the Matrix and everything. His
done it.
genjutsu.
I've made it. to
Then
the
I
final
blew him up with a
battle.
rocket launcher.
Kefka gives a cynical speech about the meaningless of life, while the heroes counter, telling of what they've learned through the course of their adventure and the things they hold dear to them: friendship, family, love, freedom. All their stories have come together in a satisfying way. And then Kefka calls for the greatest power of the universe.
And he just
Standing on
turns
top
into
of
God.
Fiery Peak, he says he'll create a monument to non-existence. This is when you start to wonder why this wasn't written as a stage play or feature film. Next, you determine the order your characters
You know,
fight in,
considering
and then
Square's love for
it's
stage
on.
play schlock, why was there never a...
Holy shit!
it's Satan. What else could it be? And if this wasn't enough,
Only
after
the
he's
start.
defeated, the screen quakes and scrolls
Making his own
upward
Tower of
as
Babel.
you must face a whole tree of bosses. It's like bosses growing upon bosses upon bosses.
It's a pretty goddamn good design.
Motherfuck.
Man,
Oh my god! What is this all supposed to be anyway? It's like you're fighting Renaissance art. It's as if Michelangelo's The Last Judgment came to life and tried to kill you.
yeah, just a little bit.
And the haunting choir and organ music gives it an epic biblical effect. Some have even said the 3 tiers of bosses represent hell, purgatory, and heaven. Dude, if you have to fight hell, purgatory, and heaven, you better just call it a day.
Yeah, and we're not even at Kefka.
Nope. There he is. Alright, fight Joker God.
Oh my god!
This is not Kefka as you'd expect. After becoming so
Ugh.
familiar with that clowny little sprite, now he becomes a wicked angel floating against a golden cloudy
Emperor Joker, if
sky
it was good.
blasting
Yeah, a
with
little
heavenly
bit.
light beams. They went above and beyond to make this the most epic final boss in gaming history. And I can't stress enough that if you're not leveled up properly and have enough Life 3 spells, you're just gonna get wiped out in one hit.
Yeah, you will.
Ah!
Oh, we got to 80 with everyone minimum.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it.
Nuke his ass! Hera's Esper design is so fucking nice.
I did it! I did it! After
Attaboy,
almost
James.
30 years, I finally beat Final Fantasy 3 or 6.
When you first hear that deafening crackle and see Kefka wither away into ashes, it's a feeling like no other. You just beat the greatest game of all time. And then you get a cinematic ending that goes on for over 20 minutes. Just sit back and
It's a little
enjoy
bit
it,
excessive, if
because for
anything.
everything you went through, they knew when they made this game that you fucking
He beat
deserved it.
Sonic EXE.
Another bucket list item checked off. It was worth going back and reclaiming that magic. I feel nostalgia is at its most powerful this time of year. The magic of
Yeah,
the
it tends to
holidays
be.
harkens back to a more innocent time.
It's either that or
The game
Halloween for
itself
everyone, right?
is about characters who are literally trying to reclaim magic from a bygone era. And I can say the magic inside this cartridge is still strong.
On the top tier of the good-ass scale, there's a few levels. Games that are good like Robin Hood, dope as a kaleidoscope, and fuck me through the fucking ceiling!
Man, that's
This
a good way to
was
put it.
The first gaming masterpiece of its kind. And there's only room in life for so many games to make such a lasting impression on you when you're a kid.
Ah.
And for me, this is it. This is one of those. And now I feel.
At what point did James get like a tribal tattoo?
Having taken, almost 30 years.
It's been there for a while. I
And
just don't
now
remember what the
that that's
starting
finally
point
done,
was.
Guess what? There's 16 of them.
Well, mainline. Well, you know, you're like a third of the way through, roughly, James. Yep, that's the end of that, I suppose. Well, that filled for time a little bit, didn't it? We'll never forgive Friday Night Funkin' for bringing back Sonic EXE. It was never gone. You just forgot it existed. The memories will always remain. The horribly mediocre memories. Cringe at best. Huh, good video. Good job, James. You're killing it. Keep doing it. Do what you gotta do. What's the next review with Doug? Anyway. Let's come out the stream, everyone. I appreciate it. You want to know when streams are going to start or what we're going to be doing on any given day? Scroll down just a little bit. Hit the link on Twitter. YouTube is out there for VODs. Blah. I can't speak. YouTube is also there for VODs and highlights. Why can't I talk? If that is something you are interested in, feel free to sub there. Patreon is also down there. A little bit of support goes a long way to help. You can get your name in the credits along with these lovely people here. And thank you, again, every day for the rest of the year. We're quickly coming up on the end of the year. We're getting there. We got 5 more streams in us. And then I'm going to take like a week off and sleep and not do a thing. It'll be great. It'll be amazing. But aside from that, thank you. We'll be back tomorrow. Probably with Disgaea? Probably with Disgaea. Alright, I suppose that's it for this evening. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you again in the next one. Later.